What's up, boys and girls? Lambo here, and today we'll have another Tryhard Thursday video. In this game I'm gonna be playing against Clem, so this was a ladder game from today's stream. And I will be talking about my thoughts that I had during the game. This was a pretty interesting game with a lot of back and forth. I think the advantage kind of went from one player to another quite a lot, so I'm going to be talking a lot about why that happened and what I could have done better. And just about the general game plan. I will also be talking a lot about army movement and that sort of stuff, because that's very important about in ZvT especially, but let's focus on the early game first. So I started this game with a 16 hatch and then 18 gas 17 pool. This will be the beginning of literally every video probably, unless I might 12 pool in some, but this is just a normal opener for Zerg. I'm scouting around a little bit for proxy barracks with the first two overlords. And then you just rally the next couple of drones into the gas. On pillars, it's actually pretty easy to scout most common proxy racks locations with just your first two overlords in time to even cancel your gas when you see the barracks. So more often than not you can cancel the gas, unless it's like a proxy barracks that's super far away, or a proxy reaper at my 5th base location / 6th base, depending on in which order you take it. So, but if that's the case, you want the gas anyways, so that's fine. And then at 20 I go for the overlord. This game, sometimes I go for hatchery before the overlord, so I would have had one more drone, but then the overlord a little bit later. Sometimes I also just go for a 28 hatch with a 27 overlord. All of these differences in the early game are very minor, and it's very important on a high level to mix those up. Because if you always will skip your speed, then you might get surprised by a surprise by a surprise 3-Rex Reaper, for example, where you're just not gonna have Zergling speed, so that will be very annoying, especially if you don't scout for the proxy Rex right away. So I micro the Zerglings very passively, by the way, because I just wanted to have as much, like, I just didn't want to lose any Zerglings. It's not super important to get any damage done against the Reaper on maps where you have a high ground to work with, so usually I would try to get some hits in with the Zerglings and lose some more HP, and usually I'm fine with that, because that means that I will be able to get the creep tumor down a lot more aggressively, but not the case here. Here I need to attack the Reaper because I actually put the tumor a little bit too far forward, so I end up losing a Zergling. It's always better to lose a Zergling than one of the early creep tumors, 100% worth it. The way I positioned my overlord was so I can see the Hellions that are moving out without the Hellions necessarily seeing me if he's not paying super close attention. And it is in position that if he is going for a 2cc build, that I would sacrifice the overlord in. So we're going for additional queens. We have 3 queens out right now. I'm going for 5 queens right now. Overall I'm going up to 8, I believe. And we're mostly just making drones. I'm making sure at this moment in time that, yeah, this is the first time I saw the Hellions on the minimap, so I put the tumors very far forward. Usually, if the Hellions were there, I would have put them first at the front and then to the side, so add them one by one. Now I'm gonna try to run in with the Zergling to check if there are any, how many depots there are on the front. Also, I have the Overlord in a position where it should see a medevac leaving for a Hellbat attack. Here he's forcing me to make a couple of Spore Crawlers, so that's a little bit annoying, but we get a Reaper for it, so that's fine by me. And we get the scout that it is in fact a Banshee opening, which is cool, so now I'm going for a lair. And the Baneling Nest, even though I know it's 3cc because there were no depots at the front, they do sometimes go for these very delayed Hellbat pushes, so just going for a little bit of an early lair, it seems fine. And at this moment in time we're just making a couple extra Zerglings in case he wants to run by. I saw that his Hellions were very late, right, so I was pretty sure already that was 3cc, which meant that I didn't need to make any extra Zerglings early on. Spore Crawler on the 3rd base is slightly too late, but 3cc Banshee hits very, very late with the cloak. So like, if you make your Spore like 440, it's fine. That's the timing that I was going for this game. And we're just trying to get good creep spread done right now. And not lose too many queens. I went for, I believe, 9 queens this game. It's very nice against Banshee and many Hellbats, especially to get a couple extra queens. I think that's good. Now once all my mineral lines are saturated, now I take the extra gases. Make sure to not take your extra gases too early, even though I want to go Muta eventually this game. I played it super safe with the Forest Spore. I don't think that's actually necessary if you go for an early layer, by the way. Because I would have just had an Overseer in time anyways, for if you would have wanted to hit with 2 Banshees and Hellbats. But it's nice you can move the Spore away to the fort base. So overall pretty clean early game. But obviously our opponent is playing 3cc, so we're not massively ahead. I invested my gas, by the way, in the first 150 gas into Baneling speed, and now we're getting a Spire. I forgot my 6 gas, I should have already been done here. And now it's pretty much all about deflecting the Hellions and taking care of your creep. So yeah, a lot of this right now is macro management. I was a little bit slow there with filling up my gas, so I had problems starting my 1-1 on time, and we're not gonna get a lot of mutas right away, so I started my 1-1 one by one. And yeah, right now we're starting to make units because we need to get ready for the first 2 medevacs. He did go for 2 starport units, Cloak and 8 Hellions, so the first 2 medevacs at earliest could arrive at like 7 minutes. So if you have an early game like this, I think you guys can go up to around 80 workers, I think is fine. We'll see how many I will go up to. My fourth hatchery wasn't super early, and I'm playing it very safe with the amount of Zerglings. You will see that I will see his medevacs leaving very soon. And I could have made a lot more drones, so that's a mistake. I should have already went up to 80 drones for sure. No matter what, pretty much. I'm making the drones right now, so it's not the worst. Like I see the medevacs leaving right now. And you can see that I'm more than prepared for those. He's unloading right now. We got 2 Marines, which is nice. And now our Spire is done, so we make mutas right away. The moment the Spire is done, we also scouted that he's going for Widow Mines. And yeah. Like in ZvT, there's really not that much to talk about. It's pretty much just what can your opponent have on the map, and it's mostly about army positioning, army splitting, and when to engage. So if there's nothing happening, there's so much mechanical stuff that you need to take care of. You always need to ask yourself, okay, what's the most important stuff that I'm doing? So for example, I don't have my overlords spread yet, but right now that just means that I would rather take my actions into managing my economy and spreading creep and stuff. So right now we're engaging. This could have been slightly better handled, but overall pretty decent. And now I see he's stimming into my third base, so right away I will pull away the drones. Already I should have pre-split this. Against a player like Clem, I know there is going to be a second prong to this, all of this, but overall pretty decent. We split away the Zerglings a little bit. And I moved my queens there on the minimap. I'm not sure if you guys saw that, but my queens are on the way to the 2 medevacs. And I split a couple of Zerglings together with the mutas, so I wouldn't lose any mutas. So this went fantastic for us because we cleaned up most of his army, and he even lost 3 out of the 4 medevacs that he had. So this is really good for us right now. So momentum is on our side at this moment in time. We are at 88 workers. The moment the 5th base is up, I want to go up to 100 workers, and I think I just made a couple extra workers. Oh, actually might have been Zerglings. And now if you have momentum on your side, you can start setting up run-bys. You can also set up run-bys before that. So for example, I could have done that earlier already, but I just wanted to have a clean game this game and just play defensive and go up to a high drone count. Both ways to play are fine. Run-bys are always decent to have, especially if your opponent is going for more of a tank composition. I saw the medevac exposed and wanted to get these units for free. Now at the same time I'm trying to hit a run-by on the other side of the map. Sent that Zergling there to activate the Widow Mine. I realized I couldn't get the SV, so I just split a couple of Zerglings there to kill the SVs that are here, which worked out nice. And now I know that there's a Widow Mine exposed here and the Banshee, so I wanted to clean that up with the mutas. And because I am ahead, I don't know why I have a second layer, that's obviously not on purpose. But because I am ahead, I'm going for a Hive and a Lurker then transition. And here I wanted to kill the Banshee first, I'm not sure why, but the Widow Mine was not active yet, so I attacked it. And then this Widow Mine also wasn't active, and it just got active, like, while all of this was going on. So now we took a couple of bad trades there. These two Mutas that died should probably not have died. And he's just straight up attacking us. He doesn't have any Marauders at this point though, so if you see an army like this, just try to activate all the mines before the fight starts. He retargeted, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but that that Voodoo Mine was pretty good. So all you need to do is get a high Baneling count and then move command the Banelings. You see, during the fights, I tried to come with a little bit of a concave and then move command the first units in and then move the units on the back and also move command the Banelings. So that's a thing that I'm doing. And right now I'm also focus firing Medivacs while this is going on. You can see the Banelings are always move commanded unless they are close to Widow Mines, where I try to sometimes blow up the Banelings so the Widow Mines don't fire. These trades have been pretty decent for Clem. But he keeps going, and he lost a lot of his gas units. So these trades look very good, and these trades were good as well, but we're obviously outmining him. And as long as we're we keep killing his gas units, in the end it's not actually that bad for us. So I'm gonna try to tank these Widow Mine shots with the queens. Widow Mines don't one-shot queens, so as long as the queens are full HP, that's fine, especially with transfuses. So now I'm gonna try to go in. And again, there is just not that much left anymore from the Terran. So we go forward with the Banelings, try to focus fire the Medivacs again. And I mean, all of this is just micro battles. Very, very often you're gonna see me try to focus fire Widow Mines as they burrow. Okay, here a couple of Banelings that were left over on the left side from the beginning. And at this moment the game is kind of over. What I should have done here, and what I'm not gonna end up doing, because I thought the game was super over so I could just kill him, but you can never actually kill a Terran, is I should have split off like 10 Zerglings to go to the third base, which was entirely undefended. I will see this later on in the replay. In general, what you should do once you get an army advantage like I just did, is you should try to kill the economy, because you can never really kill the Terran. And if you can kill the Terran, chances are you can also just kill the economy and win the game that way, but that's usually the safer damage, is the better way to go about this. So what I should have done is, I should have just split some Zerglings off to the third base, which was quite obviously undefended, since the Terran usually F2s in these situations just to survive. So that was the move for sure. I could not have killed the planetary because I didn't have enough Banelings. If I had like 20 Banelings left over, I would have for sure went into the planetary. But because I had mostly links and I saw barely any units, I tried to go for the kill. Even though I tried to go for the kill, I think like engaging there is fine, forcing him to run back. If I split off any units, that would have been so much better. So yeah, now we're getting into the later stages of the game, and I want to do a Lurker transition. The strength of this going into Lurkers after Mutas is that your opponent won't have any tanks. So you can hit a super strong Lurker timing. Well, you can do one of two things. You can A, try to attack with the Lurkers, and your opponent will be forced to counterattack you. And like try to go into your YOLO base trade. And B, the second option that's gonna happen is you can counterattack with all your Ling Bane to some base that you think is exposed, and then try to hold his main army with the Lurkers. And if his main army goes to the Ling Bane, then you can attack somewhere else with the Lurkers. Either way, it was supposed to be meant as a surprise, and it didn't end up quite being one. So now that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send all my Zerglings to counterattack while trying to defend with the Lurkers, because I know he can't have any tank ghost, right? Because so far all he saw was Ling Bane Muta. But he left a lot of stuff at home, so now we're gonna just try to defend with the Lurkers. And I went range first, by the way. As I said in the upgrade video, always go range first on the Lurkers. And you can see that the pure bio army can't really engage into a big number of Lurkers. We're gonna get a lot of damage done here with the Zerglings, which is great. And he can't really do anything. And now I'm actually doing a big mistake, which I underestimated the Thors, and I thought he was just retreating. And I wanted to kind of cut him off here. But I end up losing a lot of the Lurkers and even a bunch of the Mutas. I do end up getting one Thor, but that was not worth it. That gave up quite a lot of momentum here. And I also lost a lot of Zerglings on the counterattack. So, mostly issues with my camera movement and speed there. Like, I could have saved all the Zerglings on the counterattack after they killed all the SCVs. That's just a mistake of speed, pretty much. And then the Lurkers was mostly a bad camera movement by me. I should have recognized that very earlier that I couldn't go forward there. And here I can try to find, I'm trying to find some Marines, trying to get that Widow Mine, but I can't quite get that. And here again we're counterattacking. I actually forgot Adrenal Glands this game as well. That was a rough mine shot. Now he's trying to push here. He does not have either of the bottom right bases. I should have Zerglings there. I have one. I thought I had one Zergling there, but I didn't. So he's trying to expand forward into us, which is very, very... I don't know. It's a little bit over-aggressive, to say the least. So we can start trading on our side of the map with the Lurkers, especially on creep. That's completely fine. I saw that the tank was attacking that one Lurker, so I tried to move the other ones forward. And you can see my gas bank. At some point now it's good to get Vipers, so I started getting Vipers. And yeah, our mineral income is not as good as I thought it was, because ever since the Widowmine drop I didn't properly redrone, so I'm lacking a couple of minerals, so I'm trying to just go mass Lurker at this point. I also saw that he barely had any tanks yet. So mass Lurker in general is fantastic if they don't have the setup to deal with it. So not a lot of Liberators, not a lot of tanks, not a lot of Ghost. And now we're starting to add in Vipers. Okay, so now we see his army moves away, so we also move away with the army. You might have the question, how much do I leave at each base? We have a couple of Spore Crawlers there. I think I will leave some Lurkers on that side of the map to not worry too much about like some split pushes. Here's another Widowmine job. Clem is very annoying with those. I'm gonna have the one Muta for the rest of the game on duty against these. I don't really want to remake Mutas though, although it might have been a good idea to like remake 10 of the Mutas at least. Now he's coming in here. I already committed forward. It makes no sense to run back there with the Banings. I would have just liked to tank fire, so I tried to get the most out of it. You will see that I always try to get my Lurkers in a line, otherwise the forward Lurkers always get sniped. Also, another thing that you might realize is that every single time you unsiege, Clem will snipe me. And every time you see like the Lurkers exposed, he will also snipe me. So now I'm trying to go for a couple of abducts. I got a bunch of tanks and ghosts. He gets all the Vipers though. Every time you will go forward ahead of your Lurkers, you will lose the Vipers to ghost. So like once there are tanks and ghosts, that's the counter to Lurkers for Terran, in case Terran players are watching that don't know the counter. Well, tanks counter Lurkers pretty much, but Ghost also counter Lurkers, especially when the Lurkers are forced to move. Like every single time you siege forward with the Lurkers, the snipe will go off, and every single time you try to run away, the snipe will go off. So this is how you basically trade perfectly against the Lurkers. At this moment in time, I actually was ahead in supply. After I cleared this up, he was 150 supply with no bank, barely any ghost, and 2 tanks. So if you're wondering who's ahead at this moment, I think I am in a very good position. Because he doesn't have the exposed bases in the bottom yet. So my game plan at this moment should be to kill these bases. But what I do instead, I see that he's taking this base right now. I actually thought this was already completely set up, but he's just taking it as we speak. Is because I saw his army was out of position there at the bottom. I'm trying to siege forward to go into his natural, or towards his natural, because I have so many Lurkers that once I get into position, I figured I can just run up the ramp with all my non-Lurker units. So my plan was to just leave the Lurkers here, so he can't engage into them, and then go into his main production. But he ended up killing a lot of Lurkers while I was getting here, although it was some sort of trade. So now we're here, and now he can't really run into this anymore with his main army. And here again, what I should have done is send a couple of units into the third base right away. I was very slow with this. This is already the second time that this happened, where I have this position, but what I should do is try to kill the economy. Either way, this was the game losing mistake though by me, that I tried to go for the kill here instead of trying to deny his bases at the bottom. Because in the end, he actually took this left base very, very early, and he would have mined out before us if he never gets to mine from this bottom right bases. And my army was actually fantastic to just bust the planetary, because I was super Lurker heavy, and he was very, very light on the tanks. So I kind of missed my timing there. And obviously over time you will trade worse with Lurkers against Ghost, no matter what the Muslim tells you. That's just how it's gonna go against a good player. So I felt very pressured to eventually attack, because even if I get this last base on the left side up, and we're both mining from all of our bases, in the end I traded worse. So unless I think for some reason that I will end up trading way better from now on, I will have to either deny his economy or take good trades / kill his production and gain a huge momentum lead. So that's why I was this aggressive with the Lurkers. This is why I'm sieging forward. This is why you always see Zergs with Lurkers attack instead of doing nothing. Because you can't really do nothing. The only way I could have played it with doing nothing was until he takes these bottom right bases. I can do nothing, try to get a bank, and then try to engage. That's fine. I also didn't really do any multi-prong because I was pretty poor this game, to be honest. So I couldn't really throw away units. He also was very well set up for it. I felt like no matter where I would go, he would have a ghost in position to snipe, or at least some tanks. I believe he had a couple tanks on left side with the planetary. And now we're just trying to still take trades. And I know I will have to pull some offensive moves. Here you can see. So the way the Lurker versus Ghost mechanic works, by the way, is Ghost Snipe and Lurker range is the same. But Ghost Snipe gets cancelled the moment the Ghost gets attacked by any units, right? And the Snipe will connect after the Lurker spine hits the Ghost, even on max range, but it's slightly after. So in theory, you can't really engage into Lurkers with Ghosts, but like the way it actually works is if you have any Lurkers more forward than other ones, like any of them exposed, and the Tyrant player snipes it with 5 Ghosts, your spines will connect with maybe 2 of the 5 Ghosts, and the snipes will still go off. So you can see, for example, right now I have a Lurker at the front, and he can just snipe that. The scan went out this time, so it didn't happen, but that's basically the issue with Lurkers. And then if every single time you go forward with Lurkers, the snipes go off, and every single time you run away with Lurkers, the snipes also go off. So that's why you will see Zergs try to make something happen with either multi-prong or direct attacks with Lurkers. Because over time you won't actually trade well if you just play normally. So the advantage of the Lurkers is that they're very, very efficient if your opponent doesn't look at his army, which is never going to happen because I'm playing against Clem. Or if, like very often in split up army scenarios, which I sadly couldn't force this game, but when the armies are split up, Terran won't have the right units to deal with it on both sides, so that's usually something that you will see a lot of Zerg players go for, including myself, just not this game, because I felt the need basically to kill my opponent this entire time. Like I don't really have the run by units because I'm so gas heavy and I barely have any mineral income, so that I almost only have Lurkers. Whereas if you want to go for the run by attempts, I think having a nice big army of Ling Bane is a little bit better than being super Lurker heavy. So at this moment we're already pretty dead. But people requested this replay to be casted, so we are gonna go through with it. I mean, there is still a chance if we get us around, then the game is wide open. Like, all we need is basically one army engagement win, and then I can kill the planetary in the bottom right and he has no mining anymore. So it's not like super over, but if he doesn't make any mistakes, it's pretty over because of the way the trades went so far. So this was good for us. Theoretically, what you can do as well if you play this Lurker style is that you just go back into Ling Bane heavy army. Because most of it, like, he doesn't have Voodoo Mines anymore, obviously, right? He also never really had that much AoE. He played relatively greedy without AoE. But I was never that rich mineral-wise to go for it. So this game was a little bit different than usual, because you can see, even though I'm maxed, I don't think I ever had a massive bank because there were fights going on the entire time. Every time you will see me siege forward as well, you will see me siege the Lurkers a little bit one by one, so some might shoot and deactivate some of the ghost stuff. Now I saw he was a little bit out of position there. I got a tank. And I tried to bait the Widow Mine shot on the Overseer there above the ghost, which would have killed, I believe, 2 of the ghosts that were a little bit low HP. And now I added Infestors. Honestly, Infestors are not good with this composition at all. They also got countered by Ghost, first of all. The reason I got them was mostly because I had a lot of gas. Pretty much the only reason. Usually if you're super gas heavy and I would have had a little bit more time, or I felt like I had more space, I would have gone for Infestor. Broodlord, that's a very gas intensive army that actually can straight up beat the Terran army, but I never had the bank to go for a switch. Like, Broodlords are very, very, very expensive, and I also didn't have the upgrades for them. because of similar reasons, right? Now I'm sacrificing drones because I don't have anywhere to mine with them anymore. So I'm trying to go for a last army. His army always looks beatable, right? It still does look very beatable. I don't think he has a massive bank or anything at this point either. I am gonna respread some creep. That's definitely something that I could have improved on this game. Respreading creep would have been huge, something I didn't do very well this game. Now I'm trying to go for like these board infestors play and basically just one very, very big surround. Trying to set up, but he's turtling forward with the ghost. So that doesn't end up being too helpful. I also didn't have Neural. If I had Neural, that would have been awesome. I could have EMP'd the ghost. No, I could have Neural the ghost into EMPing most of his units. So now we're trying to set up a full flank. But sadly we also... I did go in initially with a Vibrate. I can't believe there's a sub sound right now. My stream is not even online, but someone subscribed. I'm sorry. That kind of surprised me. So here comes the fight. We kind of take somewhat of a decent fight, but at this point this is the reason why I needed to be aggressive early on, because or why I tried to punish him for taking the bases in the bottom right, or why I needed to kill these bases, because we traded too poorly. So at this moment in time he has a bank and we simply don't. So we're in a massively losing position at this moment in time. But I believe that if you guys play this Lurker style, you guys can just go for Lurkers and straight up run into their army after Ling Bane Muta and then win the game right then and there, most of the time. And then if they ever should have mass tank Ghost, I think transitioning out of Lurkers into Ling Bane focused army is probably the best play. Going into Broodlords also is not bad. It's not a bad choice for sure, if it's a very short map or if you're completely mined out and you don't need to worry about defending your economy anymore. So those are the two options that you have once they get to tank Ghost. But I believe that if you guys actually play Lurker and if you do any multi-prong at all or just straight up attacks with a good early game, it should work. But basically, like this game, honestly, we had a really nice early game, we had a pretty nice early mid game, and we kind of threw with the attack that we did. And the game wasn't over afterwards by any means, but I could have just killed the entire economy at that point and the game would have been pretty much over. I think I'm talking about it on my stream and the replay a little bit later on. But I don't want to wait until I get there. But I definitely was in a phenomenal position. You can see even here, after like a couple of bad trades were taken, we're still in a good situation supply wise, and especially considering what army he had. And this I think was also a very important moment. At this moment in time, I should have tried to deny his base from going up, the ones on the right side. That was basically the last moment in the game where we still could have won, is when our army was still pretty big and we could have tried to deny the bases on the right. I will go to this point. So you're gonna see that I'm ahead here in supply, and you can see at the worker count what kind of position we're in already, because he lost 3 medevacs and he didn't do any damage, and we droned up very early. Our upgrades are a little bit behind, but that's normal if you go for an early layer. So this is the position we were in. If you guys just take a look at the early game and copy what I did there against Hellion Banshee, I think it should be very helpful for a lot of you. Let me know what matchup you guys would like in the next Tryhard Thursday. I played a nice game against Ziggy as well, against 3x Reaper. In case you guys want to know how to counter that, you can let me know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss any content, and click the bell. And see you guys in the next video. Bye bye guys.